I've never been a particularly adventurous woman. My idea of excitement usually involved a new blend of coffee or a spontaneous weekend at my sister's lake house. So when I received an all-expenses-paid travel invitation to the island of Halcyon, I nearly deleted it, assuming it was spam. But the sender's name stopped me cold: Claire Ellis. Claire had been my best friend in university, bold, impulsive, wildly free, and had disappeared during a backpacking trip across Eastern Europe 10 years ago. There had been news stories, police searches, a missing persons report that eventually faded into cold case files. But now, here she was, alive, and emailing me. "Anna, I know this will sound insane, but I need you to come here. I'm safe. I'm alive. But I can't leave. Please come to Halcyon Island. I'll explain everything. Your ticket is attached." There was a flight voucher, ferry schedule, and coordinates to a place I couldn't find on Google Maps. Curiosity wrestled with logic. My therapist would have told me this was reckless, but something in Claire's message stirred something old and unresolved in me, a grief I'd buried so deep I forgot it still throbbed. So, a week later, I was flying over turquoise waters toward a dot on the map that shouldn't have existed. Halcyon Island was wrong. That's the only way I can describe it. The ferry pulled into a tiny, unmanned dock where jungle met the sea in a jagged, unwelcoming embrace. No welcoming signs. No resort staff with leis or clipboards. Just heat, cicadas, and an eerie stillness. Claire was there, though. She looked almost exactly as I remembered her, no older than 25, same shoulder-length red hair, same mischievous glint in her eyes. But she had aged. Not in her face, but in the way she stood. Rigid, cautious, like someone waiting for something to pounce from the trees. "Anna," she said, pulling me into a hug. "You really came. You sent me a plane ticket and a cryptic message after 10 years. Of course I came. Where the hell have you been?" "I'll explain," she said quickly. "But not here. We can't stay out in the open." That was my first real warning. The second came when I noticed that none of the birds were singing. Claire led me up a narrow path through the jungle. The air was thick with the scent of decay, wet leaves, mold, something metallic. We hiked in silence for almost an hour until the trail opened onto a wide plateau overlooking the sea. There, nestled between stone pillars and thick vines, stood a small village. Or what used to be one. The huts were made of dark, weathered wood, their windows covered in thick fabric. No power lines. No satellite dishes. Just a cluster of primitive buildings surrounded by carved statues I couldn't identify, half human, half something else. "Who else is here?" I asked. "A few of us. Survivors. Some chose to stay. Others didn't have a choice." "From what?" Claire didn't answer. Instead, she led me into one of the huts and bolted the door behind us. That night, I woke to a sound outside the window. It wasn't an animal. Something was moving through the trees. Not walking. Slithering. Claire sat in a chair by the door, clutching a dagger made of black stone. "You can hear them now, can't you?" she whispered. "What the hell is out there, Claire?" She looked at me with haunted eyes. "They don't have a name. Not one we can say. The island isn't uninhabited. It never was. We were invited, Anna. Lured. Like bait. I don't understand. Why didn't you leave? You're not a prisoner." She shook her head. "Not in the way you think." Outside, something scraped against the wooden wall. I caught a glimpse of pale skin and too many eyes. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. The scratching outside the hut stopped just before dawn. The silence that followed was worse. It felt intentional, like whatever was out there was listening for a response. When the first light of day spilled through the slats in the wooden shutters, Claire finally unbolted the door. Come on, she said. We need to go to the library. I blinked. The what? She didn't answer, just handed me a backpack with a flashlight, bottled water, and something wrapped in wax paper. I followed her through the village and up a trail that led to what looked like an ancient stone structure, half overgrown by jungle, yet undeniably man-made. It reminded me of a temple, though the carvings were unlike any I'd seen before. Angular, spiraled, almost fractal. They hurt to look at too long. This is the library, Claire said. Sort of. Inside, the air was cooler. The stone walls were lined with rows of books, scrolls, and clay tablets. Everything was coated in a fine layer of dust. In the center of the room stood a circular stone well, sealed with a metal grate. That's not a well, is it? I asked. No, Claire said. It's a mouth. She explained while flipping through an ancient leather-bound book with trembling fingers. When I disappeared, she said, it wasn't a kidnapping. It wasn't an accident. I came here, on purpose. I was following a story I found in an old European folklore book. About a place between tides and times, an island that only appears once every 20 years. I thought it was nonsense. I raised an eyebrow. And now? She looked me in the eyes. Now I know it's older than any story. It predates language. Claire pointed to a symbol on one of the pages. It looked like an eye with teeth where the iris should be. This is them. The ones below. They live beneath the island. Not metaphorically, literally. They sleep, mostly. But sometimes, they wake up. And when they do, they hunger. I shuddered. And we're food. Not food, she said grimly. Mirrors. I didn't understand what she meant then. I wish I never had to. Later that day, Claire introduced me to the others. There were 5 of them: Callum, a Scottish archaeologist who claimed he'd been here since 1982, May, a former linguist from Hong Kong who spoke 6 languages but now barely spoke at all, Raphael, a Brazilian ex-priest who never removed his sunglasses, and twins named Elodie and Theo, both mute, both unnervingly still. They all lived with the same low-grade paranoia. No one stayed outside after dark. No one looked in mirrors. No one asked what had happened to the other villagers. They went down, Claire whispered. The ones who gave in. The ones below offer knowledge. Power. But it always costs something. And you didn't leave? I asked again. Claire's face darkened. I tried. Once. The boat went in circles. The sky cracked open. I heard my mother's voice, and she's been dead since I was 12. That night, I dreamed of water. I stood on the beach, ankle deep in the tide, watching something massive rise from the ocean, a shape so large it blocked the stars. Not a creature. A structure. Like a cathedral built out of bone and coral. Inside its windows, I saw my own face, screaming. When I woke up, my pillow was wet with seawater. And something had left a shell on my chest, spiraled and glistening, still damp, with a single red hair wrapped around it. Claire's hair. Claire didn't react when I showed her the shell. She only nodded. They know you're here now, she said softly. They. The ones below. They know all the names of those who arrive. Some say they choose who gets invited. She stared at the spiral pattern on the shell. They've marked you. You're part of the story now. That morning, the others were gathered in the village's central hut. Someone, or something, had left a trail of handprints in the dirt. They were human in shape, but elongated, with too many fingers. Each one pointed toward the edge of the jungle, where the old stone path led down to the cliffs. No one said a word. May clutched a charm made of dried herbs. Callum lit a fire and threw a small bound journal into it without explanation. I caught Raphael watching me with his dark glasses. I couldn't see his eyes, but I felt them, deeply. "You dreamed, didn't you?" he asked me that evening, when the others had gone quiet. "How do you know?" "Because now you're waking up." On the third night, I broke the one rule I was told never to break. I looked in the mirror. It wasn't even intentional. I caught my reflection in a darkened window while washing my face. But what I saw wasn't me. Not exactly. My reflection was a half-second delayed. It blinked too slowly. Its mouth smiled, even though mine did not. I turned away, heart pounding. When I looked back, the window was just glass again. Just a reflection. But in the corner, behind my shoulder, something stood in the shadows, tall, thin, and watching. Claire caught me the next morning as I packed my bag. "I'm leaving," I said. "I don't care what happens. I'm not staying on this cursed island." She didn't argue. Instead, she handed me a cloth-wrapped bundle. "If you're going to try to leave," she said, "take this. It's the only thing that can protect you." Inside the cloth was a blade, carved from obsidian, etched with the same spiral symbols I'd seen in the temple library. "What is it?" "It's not a weapon," she said. "It's a key." "A key to what?" But she was already walking away. I made it to the ferry dock by noon. The boat was still there, exactly where I left it. Untouched. My heart soared. I climbed aboard and started the engine. It didn't turn over. I tried again. And again. Then I saw the water around the boat had gone still, unnaturally still. Like thick oil. No wind. No tide. Something moved just beneath the surface. A shape, long and sinuous, circling. I grabbed the obsidian blade. The moment I touched it, the air changed. A high-pitched whining filled my ears, and the water began to ripple outward. Suddenly, a voice, my voice, whispered behind me. "You're going the wrong way, Anna." I spun around. Standing at the end of the dock was me. Drenched. Pale. Eyes entirely black. I don't remember getting back to the village. I must have passed out. Claire found me near the edge of the forest, clutching the obsidian blade, barefoot, shaking. "You saw it, didn't you?" she said. "You're double. They can be us?" I asked, throat raw. She nodded. "They don't just feed on flesh. They feed on identity. On memories. They hollow you out. Then they wear you like clothing." I thought of the reflection. Of the voice. Of the thing on the dock that smiled with my teeth. "They're getting stronger," Claire whispered. "It's almost time." Time for what? For the mouth to open again. In the days that followed, the island began to change. It started with the sky. It remained overcast even when the sun should have blazed. The clouds hung too low, unmoving, as if the heavens themselves were pressing down. The jungle lost its color. Greens dulled. Flowers withered. Birds vanished. Then came the sound. It began at dawn, a deep, subsonic hum that vibrated through the earth, up through our bones. Like a distant whale song, but wrong. Inverted. You didn't hear it so much as feel it in your chest. "It's the mouth," Raphael muttered. "It's waking up." That night, Callum killed himself. We found him at the base of the library steps, his body curled in the fetal position, mouth open, eyes wide with terror. He had written something on the wall in blood. I saw myself smiling, but I wasn't happy. It wasn't me. Claire broke down. May stood frozen for hours, refusing to speak or eat. The twins sat cross-legged near Callum's body, whispering to something in the dirt that no one else could see. I wanted to leave again. Desperately. But the truth was settling over me like fog. There was no way off the island that didn't go through it. Claire took me back to the sealed grate in the temple. "This is where it begins," she said. She opened her journal and laid it flat on the stone. Pages and pages of hand-drawn diagrams, maps of tunnels beneath the island, fragments of languages that looked like spirals more than letters. "They built this place around it," she said. "The original villagers. They worshipped the ones below. Fed them. Sacrificed their doubles when the sky cracked and the tides shifted." "What does that mean?" I asked. "Sacrificed their doubles?" Claire didn't answer. She reached down and traced a spiral in the dust beside the grate. "There's something you have to see." There was a door beneath the temple. Hidden in a tunnel behind a shelf of crumbling manuscripts, down a spiraling staircase carved into black stone. At the bottom, we found a chamber. Circular. Quiet. Cold. The walls were lined with mirrors. Hundreds of them. Some old and cracked, others perfectly smooth and clean. But none of them showed us. Not accurately. In the reflection, I was a child. Then an old woman. Then a version of me missing half her face. Then nothing at all. Claire touched one of the mirrors and whispered something. The surface shimmered, then opened. Like liquid glass peeling back. On the other side was, me. But not quite. She stepped forward with a slow, unnatural grace. Her eyes were empty sockets, her mouth too wide. She smiled, and all her teeth were pointed. Claire yanked me back. The portal closed. "Why would you do that?" I shouted. "To show you what's waiting," she said. "If you don't choose, they'll choose for you." Back in the village, Raphael had begun carving symbols into his own skin. "They're maps," he explained. "To stay whole. If I forget who I am, the body remembers." He motioned for me to sit, then held up a knife. "You have to mark yourself too," he said. I refused. He didn't push. Later, I caught him talking to his reflection in a darkened window. He was crying. 2 nights later, the twins disappeared. We searched for hours, but there were no footprints, no signs of struggle. Just 2 spirals burned into the earth outside their hut. Claire's face was pale. "It's starting." "What is?" "The hollowing," she whispered. "They're thinning the boundaries. Testing who's weak. Who'll crack first." I asked her what the ones below really were. Gods? Aliens? Demons? She looked at me with dead eyes. "They're not from before us. They're from after. What comes when we're gone. What's always been waiting to wear our skin." That night, I dreamed again. I stood at the edge of a great pit, deep in the jungle. Inside, something breathed. Its breath was wind. Its heartbeat shook the ground. A voice came from the darkness, soft and terrible. "You are a mask, Anna. Take yourself off." I woke with blood in my mouth and dirt under my fingernails. The obsidian blade lay beside me. And in the mirror, my reflection was no longer smiling. It was screaming. No one slept after the twins vanished. Raphael stood watch outside the huts, blade in hand, muttering prayers in Portuguese. Claire kept rereading her journal by candlelight, her hands shaking so violently she could barely hold the pages. May had locked herself in her hut and nailed a blanket over the single window. The humming below the island grew louder. It wasn't just in the ground anymore. It was in us, vibrating in our skulls, pulsing behind our eyes. Like something calling, not in language, but inward. A memory we didn't have, urging us to come home. And we were starting to answer it. At dawn, we heard laughter. From the jungle. Childlike. Familiar. Elodie. Claire whispered. Theo. We followed the sound. It led us down a trail we hadn't seen before, overgrown, twisted, wrong. The trees leaned too far inward. The shadows felt alive. At one point, I thought I saw a mouth open in the trunk of a tree. Just a trick of the light, I told myself. Just the heat. The trail ended at a wide clearing. In the center. The pit from my dreams. A massive sinkhole, perfectly circular, at least 100 feet across. The ground around it was scorched. Carved into the stone edge were more spirals, fresh, glistening as if they'd bled. And at the edge stood the twins. Or something wearing them. Their eyes were empty. Their mouths hung open in wide, toothless grins. Their hands dripped with something dark. Raphael stepped forward. "Elodie," he called. Both twins turned their heads in perfect unison. Then they opened their mouths and spoke together, one voice, low and echoing, layered with dozens of others. "Too late. Too late. The mouth is open." They turned and walked backward into the pit. We didn't see them fall. They just vanished into the black. We ran. Back to the village. The trees seemed to close behind us. The jungle was moving. When we reached the huts, the sky was blood orange, even though it was barely mid-morning. The sun hung still, unmoving. Birds flew in wide, frantic circles before dropping from the sky. Dead. Claire fell to her knees. "We have to go down," she said. "What?" I shouted. "They're not going to wait for us to come willingly anymore. They're going to take us." May stumbled out of her hut. Her face was blank. Her eyes milk white. "I saw myself," she said. "I was underwater. Drowning. But I was smiling." Then she dropped to her knees, bent backward, and began to scream. Not human screams. Not even hers. Something spoke through her. Offer. Mirror. Blood. Return. Her body went limp. And she didn't get back up. That night, Raphael dragged me to the edge of the village. "I saw the path," he whispered. "In a dream. It's beneath the library. Past the mirror room. There's another staircase." He showed me a crude map he'd carved into his arm. "You still have the blade?" he asked. I nodded. "We need to go down. Finish this. End it." Claire joined us with a lantern and a bag of supplies. "This is our last chance," she said. "If we don't choose the descent, they will choose it for us." We entered the library in silence. The stone chamber felt colder now, the air damp, heavy with mildew and sea salt. The mirrors in the lower room were fogged from the inside. We moved the shelf Claire had shown me before. Behind it, carved into the wall, was a spiral, larger than any I'd seen. We pressed our hands to it, and the wall shifted. A hidden door opened. Stairs led down into darkness. We descended. It felt like hours. The stone changed as we went, at first rough and cracked, then smooth and wet, like polished bone. The air became thick and sour. The deeper we went, the harder it was to breathe. And then we heard them. Voices. Soft. Pleading. Some of them familiar. One sounded like my father. Another like Claire. But she was beside me, silent. "They're trying to break us," Raphael muttered. We reached the bottom. The tunnel opened into a vast underground cavern. It was alive. The walls pulsed like lungs. Great roots hung from the ceiling like veins. Pools of black water reflected not us, but twisted versions of ourselves, older, bloodied, wrong. In the center, an altar. On it, something waited. It had no face, no true form, just a shifting shape of limbs and mouths and eyes. It was impossibly large, coiled in on itself, as though pretending to be smaller. I dropped to my knees. Not from worship. From recognition. It had been inside me all along. Claire stepped forward, blade in hand. "I'm sorry," she said. "Wait, what are you doing?" "There always has to be one," she said. "One who offers the self. One who chooses. That's the only way the rest survive." She looked at me. Tears in her eyes. "They called you here, Anna, because I couldn't finish it. I couldn't.